Uh, I want to cover a lot of ground, but let's start with Keel World. That's your latest news. The album came out August 2nd. 13 songs and 6 or 7 different bands on this album. Sort of a retrospect or a career spanning album, but all the songs are brand new from each of those lineups. Is that correct? Tell us
That is
about that.
correct. It's all new material except for the Black Sabbath cover,
Right.
Children of the Grave. That's an old classic, as we all know. But
Yeah.
all of the other songs from Keel, Steeler, Ron Keel Band, Iron Horse, Ron Keel, Ronnie Lee Keel, those are all new tracks, new songs, new tracks. And I'm really proud of the response that we're getting. Jason, you know this. As you do so many albums throughout, 3, 4, 5 decades now, each album kind of signifies a chapter in your life. And even those 3 Keel albums, the Right to Rock, Final Frontier, and the 87 self-titled album, those were different chapters, and the beginning, the middle, and the end, if you will. Keel World is the whole story, all in one. It's the story of my life set to music.
Yeah. And so how did you, it sounds like it would be a lot of work trying to round up all those lineups to record 1 or 2 new songs. That's a lot of people you're pulling together for this one album. How did that process work?
Well, it was a big team and a lot of great contributions from all the musicians in all the band's projects, session players, and producers and engineers and studios all over the country, and some in the UK as well, that contributed to this to make it what it is. It was going to be a Ron Keel band album when we first started writing songs for, it's that drive to create and write and just express myself that really drives me. And we had a great batch of Ron Keel band songs.
Yeah.
And I went to dinner with a friend of mine, and his dad was sitting across the table from me at the restaurant. And he just looks at me, shakes my hand, and says, "Hey, Ron, what's going on in Keel World?" And I go, "Keel World?" And the whole time we're eating dinner, I'm thinking, man, that could be an album title. We could throw a big party and invite all my friends, kind of like we did at Keel Fest in 2019 with Steeler, Ron Keel Band, and Keel all in the same show. We did that again for Rockin' Pod in 23. So I thought, let's put Keel Fest on an album and include all my friends and some of my favorite bands and projects that made me who I am today. So it was complicated, difficult. The hardest part was working long distance, as you're having all these different musicians cutting stuff in their home studio or their local studio, sending you files. And then you got to make sure that you keep everything organized, which is a huge task. And then make sure that the guitars are working with the drums. A lot of times the rhythm guitars are really important to me, and they've got to be tight with the drums so that everything else can go on top of that. So there were a lot of complications. It did take 3 years to record, but I think it was worth the wait.
Yeah. Yeah. Our audience will know you, of course, from Steeler and Keel, but you've spent a lot of years sort of doing this, with the Ron Keel band. It's a rock band, but it's got a lot of Southern rock and some country vibes to it. And then you did the Ronnie Lee Keel. I wanted to ask you, what comes more naturally to you as a singer? We talked about your vocals earlier. As a singer and as a songwriter, do you find rock or country to be easier? Which one's more of a challenge? What is the difference between the two from your perspective?
What I like best and what I think I do best is somewhere in the middle ground. On the Ron Keel band tracks like Hard on the Outside or 5 O'Clock Shadows, where I'm still singing loud and powerfully and aggressively, but to be honest, the screaming my guts out really loud and hard comes a little easier than some of the vocal challenges that come with singing country music, because you don't have to when you're belting out a strong aggressive rock track like Moving Target or the new Steelers song Give Me Guitars or Give Me Death. It's really about capturing that attitude, being powerful, being strong, making sure you're in key and hitting the right notes. But the country stuff is every little move of your head or every adjustment that you make vocally during the course of the session really makes a difference in the song. So you have to, there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
basically on those country songs. Whereas with the rock and metal stuff, you got a wall of guitars behind you that somehow give you a little protection anyway.
Sure. Yeah. I bet
I
Jason can attest to
I
that.
feel there's challenges in both, but you're not wrong. Through the early pandemic, I started writing country songs on my own, and you are not wrong at all because it's a different emotional value you're bringing to a song, like a completely different animal, in my
Yeah.
opinion, because it's not loud. So when there's all of this frequency that's just wide open and there's all this space, if you will, you're every breath and you're basically naked.
Yeah.
And it's lighter touch on the drum. The drums are not crash bang. It's real light if there's any fucking drums at all.
I'm still using some grit. I mean, that
Yeah.
that grit, I think, is one of my favorite parts of my voice and what I bring to even some of the
Sure.
country songs like Neon Circus, which is a rockin' country tune that's on
Ha.
Keel World,
Yeah.
but you're still singing loud and hard.
Mhm.
Even the low stuff is tough for me, and it's really even more difficult during the course of a show. Because in the Ron Keel Band show, we do all this stuff, man. We do the 9 Keel songs are in the Ron Keel Band show. Our original music, we play some Steeler, we play some Black Sabbath, and so we cover all those bases in the course of a Ron Keel Band show. And I'll find myself just breezing along, man. Everything sounds great, feels good. And then it's time to sing one of those songs that's maybe in a lower register, and I'm all of a sudden I'm not so comfortable anymore. So going back and forth during the course of a show is much more difficult than, you've got, 3 or 4 songs to record in the studio today. So you try and pick the songs that I usually start with one of the country songs, one of the softer tunes. It's something
Yeah.
that I'm a little more comfortable with. And once I'm warmed up, then I start belting it out and do some of the heavier music during the course of a day when I'm in the studio. And my goal is to cut 3 songs a day. And we were able to achieve that goal. The vocal on Moving Target, which I'm really proud of. This is the new Keel song and
Yeah.
the first new Keel song in 14 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mark sent me the music, and this really was the impetus musically behind Keel World, because like I said, we had a lot of great songs in the bank for Ron Keel Band. And then when I started thinking this could be more than just a Ron Keel Band album, Mark Ferrari from Keel sent me a piece of music. And I fell in love with it. I thought it was fantastic. He's an amazing songwriter, and he just had this riff in his back pocket. And I put the lyrics and melodies and vocals to that track right here on this microphone, which is not a vintage Neumann U87, man. This is, that's a $400 mic. And I started working on the song just to create a blueprint on this microphone. And I was so pleased with the results that I ended up keeping that first take. I mean, it was magic. And so the vocal that you hear on the new Keel song was just me here in the basement with this mic. I did have the time, and I was in a great studio in Phoenix called Full Well Recording, where we cut 9 of the lead vocal tracks on this record. And I love being in an environment like that where you've got skilled engineers and producers behind the glass, a beautiful vintage microphone, a great vibe, and I can just be myself and sing. I don't have to worry about any of the technical stuff. So I had plenty of time left over, and I thought, well, let's take another shot at this Moving Target song. And I listened to the demo vocal, and I said, well, man, just copy and paste that into the band mix, because the band had re-recorded the entire song by then, and same tempo, same key. So we just took that vocal from the demo, flew it into the track, and I said, man, don't fuck with it. It's perfect. It's magic. It's that first take that you're never going to be able to duplicate that. Even with doesn't matter about the microphone or how many times I've practiced or sung the song, that first take was money. So that's what we ended up with.
Well, people should know that that Keel track is basically the classic Keel lineup, right?
It is. Mark
So-
Ferrari, Brian J on lead guitar, and they're playing. They've continued to improve their skills throughout the Keel reunion, which we did in 2008 till the present day. And those guys are playing great, swapping solos, all those harmony leads that are a trademark of Keel. and Dwayne Miller on drums, who's been with us 40 years,
Yeah.
and Gino Arce on bass, who's been in the band 15 years now. And Gino's been with me for 26 years. So when he joined Keel, he was an Iron Horse as well. It still
Yeah.
is, I guess.
Yeah.
He had been playing those Keel songs on stage with me for 10 years when he joined Keel. So it was very natural to fit Gino into the mix. And so it wouldn't be the same without those guys.
Yeah.
To me, Keel was a band and a brotherhood, and it's not just my last name, it's their band too.